This here is the new Nissan Ariya, and I can already tell you so far, it is a huge game changer for Nissan as a brand. It will shake up also the differences between, let's say, a normal volume brand and a premium brand. But can it be a game changer for the whole EV market? We'll find out together with Thomas and Autogefuehl for you. Here in the front, the Nissan Ariya shows this closed EV front grille, a Japanese styling pattern here, a little bit hidden behind with slim daytime running lights and also full LED lamps. This is here the dark blue color. We also have a dark green color for you and a copper color. These are the colors we have seen so far, but of course there will be more of that. It is a compact SUV or crossover as you want to take it. And the interesting thing with Nissan is they have dominated the EV market with the Nissan Leaf in the very early stages. Then came Tesla, then came all the other manufacturers. Can they now strike back with the Ariya? Well, it might have a big chance for that. Why? Let's take a closer look here. 19-inch wheels. These are the ones with the aerodynamic design. More balloonish tires definitely, but better riding comfort. However, you can also get 20-inch wheels if you want a, just more prominent styling. Then you can see here the wheel arches are painted in black, so this also gives a sporty look. And then there's a very, very sleek side profile right here. Look at that, so more a crossover look. And they've put the batteries in the lower end of the vehicle. We can also see a cutaway model there. And they have two battery sizes, either 63 kilowatt hours net or 87 kilowatt hours net. We have the one with the small battery here today, but at a later stage we'll also drive the bigger battery. Subscribe if you haven't done so far. And the range will be very interesting, I can promise you that already right now. Towards the rear we can see there are interesting design lines, and the overall length is 4 meters 60, that is 181 inches. As for the rear design, modern and sleek, light strip here going all the way across the vehicle. And on the technology side, it's very interesting. You have the front-wheel drive model, you have the all-wheel drive model, then with the 2 electric motors, and the acceleration difference is 7.5 seconds to 6 seconds for the all-wheel drive model, 0 to 100 kilometers or 62 miles. They plan to do an even quicker performance model, but that is actually pushed away for now because they say there wouldn't be a huge demand for that. And top speed is also a difference. The front-wheel drive model 160 kilometers an hour or 100 miles an hour, or then the all-wheel drive model 200 kilometers an hour or 125 miles an hour. As for suspension, there's one base suspension that is going all across all models. No adaptive suspension. However, there's a multi-link rear axle, and that is a more elaborated rear axle. Let's see in the driving part how it plays out as for comfort. And recharging here, what is kind of very special for this mid-size segment here, you will have a 22 kilowatt 3-phase charging for AC, that's great, and 130 kilowatt DC charging, but with a good charging curve. We can also show that charging curve, and that means that from 10 to 80% state of charge, the big battery, you'll charge in about 35 minutes. Should you wonder about the frunk? No, there is none. Just equipment here underneath, fluids and so on. So no trunk whatsoever. And should you wonder about the name, by the way, Ariya, the thing is, it's supposed to be, derived from, Sanskrit word of like noble. And the problem is, for a German market, when you say Ariya in German, that's the exact pronunciation of Aryan. And that is of course not a good combination for a car on the German market. So the Germans then in their market try to say rather Ariya. So it's differently pronounced and there's no mismatching with that. But overall, I think as for a name pick, maybe not the best idea if it in some way can be connoted to Aryan. So yeah, what do you think about it? Moving towards the interior, that key fob is slim and light and high quality and no high gloss piano lacquer. Awesome. Then door closing sound, very good, low frequency, sonorous. I really like that. And look at that, the interior materials here at the doors. This is then the Alcantara equipment, the microfibre equipment. You have it here at the inside of the doors, either here like this in bright or in plain black is also available. Soft touch above that. Like here, good quality as well. Then this is a little bit harder. Then here you have a soft leather red again, and also the quality of the buttons right here. Everything is really nice, and even more so, look at that. When I lower the window now a little bit for the front and the rear, this is here a dual insulation glass in the front, but even at the rear doors. And then look at this lounge interior. It looks really amazing, doesn't it? Again, you can also have this seat here in complete black, and also with a black microfiber. Here then with a beautiful beige or bright, or maybe ivory color microfiber, what would you call it? Leatherette outside, so the seat is animal free, and I think a beautiful combination. Blue exterior, then this bright interior, that is really amazing. So this would be my favorite setup. The base seat would be that you have fabric, where you have microfiber here and leatherette outside. This then here, towards middle or high trim. And the highest, sadly it's the highest, is an animal skin pack. Sadly that they still offer it in 2022 in an electric vehicle. But most vehicles will be sold like this with a bright or black microfiber. Also in the US it's available. The steering wheel is animal skin wrap as well at this moment. But they're also working at alternatives. The screens, 2x 12.3 inch, more than horizontal setup. Are they of any use? We'll find out very soon. Seating position, higher than you might expect from the outside looks actually. So it might look like a crossover from the outside, but seating position here, so electric controls. Seating position wise, it's more an SUV indeed. And for me with 1.89 m or 6'2", there's just some headroom left. And this panoramic roof here and also the head-up display is actually standard for all models except the very base model. And the interesting thing is here, this is a panoramic roof with a shade. That's better, for example, than with the Teslas, where it gets really, really hot. And you can also open that. So most of these modern EVs, they have fixed panoramic roofs and maybe sometimes even not a cover. And here they have both. You can open it and you do have a cover, and it's actually quite substantial, that opening as well. So yeah, that's really nice that they have that, and it feels very elaborated so far. Comfortable seating. We'll see how it turns out while driving. This, by the way, also equipped here with the optional BOSE sound system, and why don't we test the sound directly right here, right now. Let's see about that. So isn't it? Wow, that's a great surround sound, right? So I can really say this is a premium vehicle, and it does compete with Audi, BMW and Mercedes, no doubt. Look at this lower middle console. It will have a special, actually two special features coming up very soon. Here, first of all, this is the shifting lever, drive mode, reverse, park. And then here is like this matte wood, really nice. And then adaptive cup holders. Then you have these capacitive buttons, but at least not on high gloss black. So for the driving modes, for the e-pedal, how this will affect driving, we'll soon see. And this is one of the special features soon coming. And then soft touch leatherette here for the armrest. Lifting it up, yeah, it's actually well attached. And then is this inductive charging pad right here, another storage area. And now comes the first special feature, because we can actually move this whole middle console. We can move it backwards to have a little bit more space in the front. If it's that useful, I don't know. It's a cool feature, and it reveals here in the front that we have a connector box, USB-A, USB-C. Either wired or wireless connector for the Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. You can choose that actually, but most of the time that you can control these things better, you will probably move it forward again. Yeah, would you actually use, or would you have it in the backward position? Tell me in the comments actually. And then there's this, second control. So they do give you some haptic feedback when you press them, and when you press open here, look at that, what happens then. There we have another. Why would you do that electric? I don't know, and you can also even hold it in between, like this. That's funny, isn't it? And then there's a manual opening of this one, or you just leave it open like this, and you can always, put it back and out again. This is maybe showing off to your friends or so. Yeah, what would you put in there? And here the contrast, electric versus manual opening, this middle one, then the classic glove box. I think that's just better when you have the simple and plain manual control, because here your knees touch it then right and left, and then you have to close it first, and that takes a while and so on. And yeah, not the ideal solution. I think this is just easier. And also when you think about, maybe you're closing it and you're not watching, and maybe like, someone on the passenger side, maybe the kids play around with it, and then they hold this and it's like, yeah, that's not that pleasant indeed. It does not really stop. Yeah, you might say, oh, that's a dumb thing to do, the dumb thing to test here actually, but you remember when someone has kids, this will happen at some point. And so, yeah, not a fan of, it looks cool, but not a fan of the electric solution here. Interior overview, 2x 12.3 inch horizontal stress, soon more details to the screens. Here once again the soft touch microfiber, beautiful and bright, would be then again black in the black styling. And then the copper accentuation here goes all the way horizontal, also here with these air vents. And they thought about a manual volume jog, that's great to have, and also for muting like this, that's good. The climate controls are capacitive, yes, they do give some kind of feedback, but the beautiful matte wood area here, this is very, very cool. So yes, I don't like capacitive BS buttons, #capacitive BS. However, the integration is pretty cool, and when you shut down the vehicle like this, it goes kind of almost invisible, and then when you start up the vehicle here, they are backlit, so it is beautifully done, no doubt about that. You can also more or less control it while driving. It's a little bit complicated with this, yeah, you have to press it, I mean, you don't have to press it that hard actually, so a slight press is actually enough. It's not the most intuitive, let's say, it's not the best to control while driving, but it's somewhat okay and it looks amazing. Steering wheel has electric control in and out and also up and down. Here is a well-equipped vehicle, and the strange thing is it goes extremely high, higher than anyone would need it to, but it doesn't go that low. So for me, it shouldn't go that high, but it should go a little bit lower actually, but that way it's still fine. And on the steering wheel, it's a mix of capacitive buttons and real jogs, for example, so overall actually fine, also to control the digital instruments and stuff. You can change the view, you can have a bigger digital speed view in there, or you can then, for example, have some information like this. You can also have the GPS or even the map then right here in. But here, sadly, when I activate the Apple CarPlay map, then the GPS view here and the instruments just disappears basically. Let's see if I go back to the car internal map. It doesn't really reappear, so maybe you have to cancel then the route guidance here first. Here we go. So, and now when I've cancelled the Apple CarPlay guidance, then the map is back here again. Head-up display, also standard for most model trims, and also with some basic GPS guidance. The screen here with the CarPlay integration, or then also Android Auto if you're using the Android phones. And you can always dim the screen here with a hotkey, and then you can also go plus, minus, change the brightness of that, and always have a hotkey here for the camera system. The resolution could be a little bit better. There's this fake drone view from above. The main menu looks like this. That one doesn't look that modern actually, so it could look more modern. The responsiveness is better than we know so far. We're around the Stockholm area today, so best greetings to all our Swedish fans. Yeah, most of the time you will probably use Android Auto or the Apple CarPlay. They say, by the way, they have a dynamic route planning also for the charging stations, by the way, but it does not do the preheating. You either have to floor it out then or do the preheating manually actually. So this is one thing to consider, and you can also search for charging stations then nearby. They have a cooperation with Plug Surfing for that. However, the infotainment system overall I think could be a little bit more modern from its looks, but I think you'll get along, and most of us are using Apple CarPlay and Android Auto in our vehicles anyway nowadays. And hidden here in that lower corner, really nice luxury features. Heated steering wheel or automatic function. The same also goes automatic function for the heated and cooled seats, or then manual in 3 levels. And that's such a rare combination here. Microfiber seats in combination with cooling. Awesome, ready for summer. The back mirror is either classic or digital, like this. In this case it might make sense because the view to the rear is not the best via the normal mirror. Here you actually do see better, and then you can also adjust it, for example move the whole image up or down depending on what you want to see. And also if you have, for example, the back loaded all the way, you know, cross through the window, you still can see through the rear by this digital solution. Look at that rear area, especially even more beautiful in that bright microfiber styling. And let me first show you here, when I'm behind the driver's seat here, ample of legroom. That's awesome. And an interesting fabric-alike cover of the rear seat. This is such a premium material use and animal-free. Besides the steering wheel, it's really awesome. Then they're using the EV platform. There's no middle tunnel whatsoever. Also real buttons here for the seat heating in the rear, USB-C, USB-A charger. Then the matte wood. This is one of the best EV interiors I've seen so far from all EVs actually. So I'm really amazed by that. Headroom wise, it works. It's not the highest vehicle, but it definitely works for 4, even for 5. Yeah, it works for 5 tall adults. Maybe not the most ample headroom than in the rear, but it does work for 5 tall adults indeed. Then ISOFIX at the outside seats each. It's a comfortable seating position, and once again also great material quality is also with this perforation that it's more breathable. And here in the middle part you can fold down the armrest, and these cup holders are not adaptive but they're quite deep, so they should hold most bottles actually tight. So I'm very impressed by this interior. Trunk or boot area, 470 liters for the front-wheel drive, 415 for the all-wheel drive. That is 17 versus 15 cubic feet. The width here, easily a little bit more than a meter or 40 inches even, so that's actually quite good. The length, a little bit less than that, 95 centimeters, or see it right here, around 37 inches. The height here is about 65 centimeters or 26 inches, unless you use a little bit more of that lower space here. You could store a cable right here. You can put this one here upright as a splitter, but you can also have cables here right and also on the left side. So they thought about enough space for different charging cables even. You do fold the seats from the rear seating area actually. There's no possibility to do it from the trunk, but the overall length in here, maximum length is about 180 or 71 inches. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge with the Nissan Ariya, and here we go to the sports mode and show you a first acceleration with the front wheel drive model. Let's go! Well, that was 0 to 80 kilometers an hour. Now I have to reduce the speed, and I also set the steering wheel that I can drive better. I have set the steering wheel in the way that you could see the speed better from that camera angle actually. Yeah, it was substantially quick. You maybe heard it also. I had some wheel spin in the front, and that is the thing with the front wheel drive model. That can happen, although it was dry here now. So much power here with the electric vehicles, and when you just the front axle, yeah, actually then with the electric vehicles the rear wheel drive is to me actually better, because the car accelerates, the weight shifts to the back, and also for the turning circle rear wheel drive is usually better. Well, but you can also get the all-wheel drive model, and then it's also 1.5 seconds quicker in the acceleration figure, and you can also use torque vectoring, so it will have more agility than also in the corners. However, for most situations the front drive is enough, and you don't always need to accelerate that hard. The acceleration itself is definitely sufficient, as we've seen so far. Well, after this harsh acceleration, we will also reset the trip meter, and then we can also tell you something later on about the overall consumption, a realistic one when we drive in a rather normal way, let's say it that way. So here we go, back again. We have a low center of gravity. Batteries are in the center. That's usual with these EVs, and that gives us a lot of agility. So it is quite high from a seating position, but it feels then quite sporty while driving. That's something we know from these EVs. The steering itself, it is pretty light here in this low degree angles actually, and then gets a little bit harder to the sides. So overall not too bad, and gives you also a good feeling of the vehicle. The driving modes, here in the sports mode you have more throttle input. In the standard mode it's a little bit drawn back, and in the eco mode then the throttle pedal is reduced. As for the intake, it won't make the biggest difference, and when you use the pin down it always goes fast, but of course you could switch it a little bit. Most of the time probably people will stay in the standard mode anyway. Between the D and the B mode, here with the shifting lever, let's see the difference. When I'm in the D mode, it does some recuperation. That's a funny motorcycle. And when you put to the B mode, actually, let's see, it's not a significant difference actually. It does recuperate a little bit. D mode then a little bit less. So that is, let's say, a small step. A bigger step indeed is this E pedal. You press this and then you have significant recuperation. So if you rather want one pedal driving feeling like now, then you're going with the E pedal mode. Let's see if E pedal and D or B in combination makes any difference. So here now E pedal, harsh recuperation, B mode. That's probably the maximum, then it doesn't make any difference anymore. So it seems that they have made it like D, B, E pedal, like, you know, from the recuperation strength overall. So first impression, a likable driving situation. You have a nice panoramic front windscreen. They are using for the heated windscreens these fine heating lines. To me that's not the best actually. I rather prefer these heating foils. They are quite effective, yes, and especially when you think about here in a country like Sweden, where we had these Japanese style background, but we're still in Sweden, so it was a little bit confusing there maybe. However, I always see, especially against white clouds then in the sky, so I always see it. Some don't see these heating lines, I always see it, and to me it's terribly annoying. Some agree, some say, I don't see it anyway. What about you? Tell me in the comments. Not sure if you can also get it without heated windscreen, but most Swedes of course will actually go for the heated windscreen. Definitely makes sense. Controlling the car while driving here with the heated heating control, it is okay, you know, it's okay, but still a turning dial would be better. It looks awesome, definitely, it feels great, but not the best solution. You don't have to press it that hard, but controlling it while driving is, you know, you also don't know like, oh, what am I hitting and where am I hitting it, so you tend to look at it, and the moment you look at it, it's of course always a little bit distracting. Yeah, here we go. So steering feel, by the way, also switches from the driving mode. Standard mode is really light, and in the sport mode it gives you a little bit more feedback, so you can also adjust it by that actually. As for suspension, you remember we have one standard suspension and the multi-link rear axle. So far so good. When we had some bumps in the road, was no problem actually, especially here with the 19-inch wheels. We have some more dampening from the tire, so when you go for the 20-inch wheels you will lose some comfort, but you gain visuals, right? So yes, the car does look better with 20-inch, definitely. It is always some kind of trade-off. I think it would still work But the question is, what is more important to you? That the ride is a little bit softer, or that you have a cooler look than from the wheels? You can decide that for yourself. Most of the time you're driving in the car, right? So maybe then the driving comfort thing will be more important to you. Yeah, but it looks better. Yeah, it's always a question of that. I really like the panoramic roof, that we can also open it and we have the shade when it gets too hot. Most of the time not a big problem in Sweden here, but of course when you live in a US state like in Texas or something, Arizona, then you will have a problem with these roofs that do not have cover. Now we're on a little bit quicker road and we have reasonable acceleration. It's also very well insulated. Here now 70 kilometers an hour. It's very silent in here. It's a very relaxing ride, with its suspension, the noise insulation, the rather soft steering. Everything works together very well. So indeed, I was at first skeptical in the way of, we didn't hear from Nissan for some time. There was the new Qashqai, of course. Qashqai is always a very relevant car, yes. Then there was the new Juke at some point, but there wasn't much fuss about Nissan. And now they're back with the Ariya here, and they are really back indeed. So really stepping up the level from the Leaf, and they have a very serious competitor here. And if you think about the main competitors, VW ID4, Tesla Model Y, Ford Mustang Mach-E, Volvo XC40 or C40, a little bit smaller of course, Ioniq 5, Kia EV6, so Skoda Enyaq, Audi Q4 e-tron, and there are so many competitors of this one here, and they're all somewhat in the same segment, somewhat in the same pricing, power, battery. Here they have a little bit bigger battery than the competition, and indeed that pays off. And they also move this car towards the premium segment indeed, with all the materials and stuff here with the microfiber, really stepping up the game. The lower armrest here is a little bit low, like the inside of the doors. I'm not sure, should I put my arm here very low, or rather put it like here, like yo, what's up styling? That's the right one. Armrest is okay, but the left one is not that suitable, especially in combination that the steering wheel doesn't go that low. So that's something I do realize here. And then there's this part, this one hard part below the Alcantara that you do hit with your arm. So that's one hit and miss. So one of the few deals I've discovered now while driving that could be made better. But there's so many things that are so well executed here. And well, exterior-wise, it's always a personal preference, but we have seen that so many vehicles, they look kind of similar, especially if you compare this one to the ID4 or something. From the interior, it's a great build quality. The software is maybe not the best, most modern, but also not worse than the competition and better than some of the competitors. Everything is well usable, and you can always use the Apple CarPlay Android Auto integration for that. The execution interior, look and feel is really, really nice. User interface, at least we have also the manual volume knob and so on. And we have these backlit capacitive buttons. That's also better than most of the competitors. And also the driving feeling is both comfortable and sporty. So in no way would it be behind the competitors, and in a lot of ways even be, in front of them. So far in this segment here, my favorites were the Ford Mustang Mach-E, the Kia EV6, Hyundai Ioniq 5 of course together along with that, but I found the EV6 a little bit better, and I really like the Volvo XC40 or C40. Only thing is that their range is a little bit behind the competition, and this Nissan Ariya here can easily match that. So I can already tell you right now, from driving also now, this can sure be one of the top picks in that, let's say at this moment, rather standard EV segment. Of course, it comes at the cost of that the Nissan Ariya is not a cheap Nissan, not a very affordable Nissan. It more has the same price than also the premium competition, but the price especially if you compare the competitors there I just mentioned, is indeed justified. So that's perfectly fine. What about the assistance systems? We can set here on the steering wheel. Here, cruise control, change and set the speed. Why isn't it keeping it? Let's see, distance to the car in front of us. Here we go. There we go. There's the active cruise control. The other one was the speed limiter. So now, setting the speed. Now let's see about the active lane keeping assist. Green steering wheel symbol. How smooth is it? Very smooth. Look at that. Like not a harsh steering reaction. Everything very smooth. That's actually pretty good. Then we have the blind spot monitor. There's a red triangle in the side mirrors each. Also reacting very efficiently, very nicely. Yeah, there we go. So assistance systems wise, this car is checking all boxes indeed. And we have a very good and comfortable experience. Cornelius?
Yes.
He's already sleeping. I think that's a good sign.
No, I'm listening to what you are telling.
Ah, closing his eyes and listening. Yeah. That's interesting. So what did I say? Yeah.
I like this car.
He likes it. Yeah. So for as a passenger, relaxing.
Yeah.
G-forces, insulation.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's always a good sign, you know, when your passenger is relaxed, it shows that the insulation is good, that not so many G-forces are applied. Of course, it's always the thing about learning to drive EVs, that you don't have harsh acceleration and harsh recuperation on the passenger. So you rather try to be smooth with your pedal, especially when you're in this here e-pedal or one-pedal driving mode. Then of course it plays a major role that you can control it in a very smooth way. Other than that, you can of course also deactivate the e-pedal mode and then rather do the recuperation with the brake pedal. It will do the same recuperation, it's just a different method of doing so actually. So, there's are we on the bus lane, right? Our Swedish fans will probably say like, Thomas, that's a fail. Yeah, it looked like I would have need to go on the very right lane, but that's it's bus and taxi, right? Yeah, do we have that in Germany? Sometimes, not that frequently, but sometimes indeed. So we're getting off the motorway now. Here in Sweden, we cannot drive that fast on the motorway anyway. We have to wait for a German high-speed motorway test to test more motorway. Now we head more towards some city traffic. And let's take a first look here at the consumption figure. So here we go. And yeah, we've been doing some nice cruising now on the motorway, and that is some 15 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers average. That's indeed very, very good. So we'll drive even further, and then we'll tell you also later on the figure what it is in 100 miles and what this would mean as a concise range in kilometers and in miles. Here for the front wheel drive plus small battery. Remember, you can go front wheel drive big battery and all-wheel drive big battery. So these combinations are available. Initially they thought about also combining the all-wheel drive with the small battery. They got rid of that. Initially, what is going on there? Oh, that's Nissan Qashqai losing its wheel arch cover. Interesting. Not sure if you can see that on camera. Yeah, must have hit something like a side pole or something. Haven't seen that. Also wonder that, you know, sometimes strange things happens with cars, and you're like, is the driver not seeing that? And like, why don't they stop? And then but sometimes people are also driving with open hatches, and you feel like like, you guys seeing that you're driving with an open hatch? Yeah, that happens from time to time. So far, very, very efficient result, and we will drive even further now, and I'm really looking forward to what the final consumption result is. But as for the first estimations, it really seems that it does also tick the efficiency box, And then we can really say this is one of the best EV picks. This is one of the best EV picks now. Yeah. But what about the final results? Let's take a look. Well, we did have some downhill, but then we also went uphill again. But look at that. 13 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers. That's 20 kilowatt hours on 100 miles. That's sensational. Super efficient. Okay, ideal conditions, best temperatures for the batteries, very low speed limits, smooth driving, constant speed, maybe a little bit of topography change here and there. So most ideal situations for a good energy consumption. However, still, this is so efficient. At this moment here, under these ideal conditions, this would be more than 450 kilometers or almost 300 miles for the small battery. And for the big battery, the same consumption would even mean that you can actually score some 400 miles or more than 650 kilometers. That's one of the best results ever for an electric vehicle. And now you will check out the big comparison EV episode, or also one of the main competitors, the Kia EV6, directly.